Welcome to the depopulated pocket universe, separate from the rest of the space-time continuum that is a Hodinkee.
Title sequence.
Title sequence, title sequence, title sequence. Can the title sequence just me going, title sequence, title sequence, title sequence?
Hey Hodinkee, I love 24-hour dials. Why do you think they aren't more popular?
The interesting thing about 24-hour dials and their popularity is that basically, and this is going to sound like circular reasoning because it is, circular. 24-hour dials are not popular because they're not popular. I think that we started out with the convention of 12-hour dials very, very early on in the history of clockmaking. And this was at a time when you would be lucky to get a watch or a clock to run for 24 hours without having to wind it anyway. So, we started out with a 12-hour dial, and we just kind of continued on from there. And it is one of the most deeply ingrained ways of quantifying time and quantifying the passage of time that I can think of. I mean, it's just so instinctual and so habitual. I personally like 24-hour dials. I like 24-hour time displays, and I have a couple of G-Shocks, which I keep set to military time, to 24-hour time. I always have to do a little bit of mental arithmetic whenever I look at the display on one of those G-Shocks. I've got to do a little bit of mental conversion. So if it says 1730, I have to do a little calculation and say to myself, oh, okay, it's 5:30 p.m. 5:30 p.m. conveys something to me. It gives me an immediate instinctive sense of where I am in the day in a way that 1730 does not. And because it's so deeply ingrained in us to quantify time that way and to perceive it that way, I don't think 24-hour dials are ever going to be anything more than, kind of a niche way of displaying the time on a wristwatch.
What about in Europe, Jack?
Well, tracking time using a 24-hour display or 24-hour quantification of time, it's done where you really don't want to make a mistake about, AM or PM. So navigation watches and navigation clocks, aircraft, for instance, the military, obviously keeps 24-hour time. In wristwatches in Europe, certainly, I don't see any more 24-hour dials than I do in the United States.
Hey Hodinkee, I'll be graduating med school next year. I want to gift myself a watch to remember the occasion. Do you know of any watches with significant history for doctors?
Sure. I mean, the first and most obvious example is a chronograph with what's called a pulsometric scale. So a chronograph with a pulsometric scale enables you to more easily estimate the number of beats per minute of the heart rate. So what you do is you palpate the pulse at the radial artery in the customary fashion, and you start the chronograph. And when you've counted a certain number of beats, usually it's calibrated to 30 beats or 30 pulses, you stop the chronograph and you look at where the hand is, and that tells you how many beats per minute the heart is beating at. So if it stops after 10 seconds, if you have 30 beats over a 10-second period, you have somebody with a pretty severe clinical tachycardia who should probably go to an emergency room almost immediately. It's a very, very niche complication, and obviously it's been made obsolete by the ubiquity of pulse oximeters, both in medical settings and at home. But I think they're cool. They're very neat things to have. In a sense, pretty much any watch with a center seconds hand could be considered a doctor's watch. Doctors needed to be able to do things like count pulse beats, obviously. And the center seconds were actually originally developed in order to make it easier to count elapsed seconds more accurately. And before center seconds, there were actually a couple of watches, very, very large small seconds displays that were marketed specifically as doctor's watches. The two that I'm thinking of in particular are the Gruen Techniquadron and the Rolex Prince, which were rectangular watches with very, very large small seconds displays, and they were specifically marketed as doctor's watches. And if you feel like digging one up, it's a very, very inside baseball, but very cool way to connect yourself horologically to the medical profession.
Hey Hodinkee, what are solid end links and what difference do they make?
First of all, let's talk about end links. The end links are the last link at either end of a watch bracelet, and they are the parts of the bracelet that actually fit in between the lugs of a watch. And you can basically make them in one of two ways. The first way is to take a piece of stamped metal and fold it over, and then attach it to either end of the bracelet. And this is the less expensive way to do it. And then there are solid end links, which have to be machined out of a solid piece of whatever metal it is or whatever material it is that the bracelet is made out of. And generally speaking, people prefer solid end links because they're usually a much more precise fit to the lugs of the watch, and they don't have a tendency to rattle around as much. But for some of us who remember our first watch being something like a Seiko 5, for instance, there is something about the kind of rattly quality of a hollow end link bracelet with, stamped end links. That's, it's kind of a nostalgia trip, actually, in the same way that having the hair pulled out of your forearm by the same bracelet is a nostalgia trip. We have a fabulous question that Danny and I are going to discuss. And Nora Taylor, take it away.
Hey Hodinkies, do any watches make you mad?
I've not heard this question before. It's the first time I'm hearing it, but if I had to pick watches that make me mad, it wouldn't be a watch in particular, but any watch with a dial that has no minute markers. It makes me mad functionally. I can't set the time exactly unless it's every 5 minutes. And that's just an untenable situation for me.
It seems like a kind of a petty thing to get upset about,
Really?
honestly, because, come on, like the worst you could possibly be inconvenienced under any circumstances is you would have to wait 2.5 minutes.
Sure, okay.
Well, no, that's not true, actually.
I'll raise you a Panerai, okay?
Because if it's like 25 seconds after the hour, you actually have to wait almost 5 minutes to get to the next one. But still.
I think I would give up on the watch at that point.
Really?
I think I might.
You would give up after 5 minutes?
Because
you would give up on a watch after 5 minutes?
It wouldn't be that I'm giving up on the watch after 5 minutes. It would be this moment would be the beginning of many more moments, and the moments would pile up on one another.
I see. So you would see a lifetime of accumulated, wasted 4 minutes and 59 seconds kind of piling up ahead of you.
Imagine the people out there who are so aggrieved by the idea of a manual winding move.
Yeah.
And
we don't have to imagine.
Then try introducing to them a second level
Right.
of anguish. So I have to set the time on the watch. What do I do now? Well, what you do is, if you really want it to be accurate, wait until it's 11:05. But if it's 11:05 and 25 seconds, wait until it's 11:10.
You know something? I've done a complete 180 in the last, has it been 4 minutes?
It might have been 25 seconds.
It might have been. Yeah, I've done a complete 180. I 100% agree with you. If people are going to get mad at a watch, they're going to get mad about something this kind of like minute and inconsequential. I mean, we work ourselves into a lather over date windows, so why shouldn't we get ticked off at?
I think we should.
Watch without minute
if our
markers?
job
Yeah.
is nothing, it's to make this easier
That's
for
right.
you.
That's right.
And this just makes me.
We've given the horological community a whole new thing never before gotten mad about in my experience to get mad about.
I'm so glad I'm here.
Let's get out there. Let's get mad. Angry people.
Do it.
Do it for us. Do it for you. Do it for the children. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the show. And thanks again to Mr. Danny Milton for coming on and giving us a whole new level of things to be mad about. We will see you the next time. And thanks for watching again. And please do not forget to like and subscribe.